Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there in YouTube land. I am Deleted Scenes, and I would like to welcome you to the other side of midnight. Already in the chat, my partner in crime, the host of Western Cinema Presents Action Theater and After Hours Karaoke, the toxic gunslinger himself, Jedi Bill. Faithful Blue Wrench, the bird woman of YouTube, Connie Cleary. Something last call, dark side. Wrench, just keep an eye on this guy. He might be trouble. She of the smoldering new avatar. The host of Thursday Things. Co-host of Friday Night Last Call. And of course, she's always background for Geeky Geezers. And she joins me every Tuesday night for Live from Sparkwood 21. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason you truly watch all of those shows, Editors Network. And first time in my chat, welcome, Matt Sheetwood. Well, it's been a long and busy week, and this is the time where we get a chance to chill out, relax, hang out. My guest is backstage, ready and waiting to go on. Ladies and gentlemen, the tired midnight blogger, Curtis Selby.
Well, thank you for having me on here. And yes, I'm Curtis Selby, retired midnight blogger. What blogs, in this case, actually at midnight. I'd like to thank you for having me on here. How can I help you today?
All right. Well, how did you first come to YouTube?
Well, it is a little bit of a long story. I'll try to keep it short, though. Ever since I was a kid, I've wanted to write, but there are lame and pathetic reasons why I've never actually ended up doing so. But when I was married, my ex-wife would every now and then toy with the idea of acting like she was supportive. Where I'm going with this was, she told me one day, you know what you need to do is blog. That's what everyone does. You go online and you get famous and make money and you live happily ever after. Well, I did go online, but none of the rest of that happened. But when I was blogging, I kind of fell in love with it. And so after I left her and had kind of sort of gotten on my feet, I started my own blog again, not really knowing what to call it. I just call it the Tired Blogger because I just thought it sounded cool. And for a while, I meandered around. It didn't really get a niche. And then I started to write about politics. And in the middle of all this, my son was doing his own YouTubing, and that inspired me to try to do some of that myself. And I found that it's actually easier to make something, even if it's just kind of half based, as opposed to writing something. It can take me 4 to 6 hours to write something that's worthwhile, whereas sometimes I can film something for 2 hours, edit for a couple of hours, and have something that's higher quality and gets more views. So that's the Cliff's Notes version of how I got started with this.
Right on. I would like to say hello to everyone joining us on Twitter. I can't see you, but I know that you're there. And of course, everyone who is joining us on Curtis's channel. Welcome. Hit the like, share out the stream, and if you are new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you are subscribed, please check to make sure that you are still subscribed, because YouTube likes to unsubscribe people without their permission. Just one of those little pitfalls. So, were there any other inspirations for you to come on? Any favorite channels or anything like that, where
There,
you watched it and thought, I like the cut of that guy's jib, you know?
well, so as lame as this is going to sound, one of my big inspirations was actually Joe Rogan. I know he's more on Spotify now, but
Mhm.
I happen to get sick. It's part of the joke of the tired blogger. I have chronic fatigue syndrome, and sometimes it gets like profoundly bad. And my last bad time of it was about 5 years. It was just a year or two before that disease that we shall not name, so that your channel stays up.
Hmm.
And Matt Cheatwood, who is now in here, he was very helpful to me then. But the reason I bring him up is he knew that I liked intellectual pursuits, and so he introduced me. I guess I won't do the Cliff's Notes version on this one. He introduced
Oh,
me to,
take your time.
if it's okay, if it's okay. Um,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
he he introduced me to. They had discovered what at the time was the oldest existent temple or religious building that had ever been. And I don't know, you're like, this has what to do with YouTube? Well, because I was sick, I couldn't really do much, but he introduced me to this knowledge that this site called Göbekli Tepe in Turkey had been discovered, and it was 10,000. It was built in 10,000 BC. So we're talking, I want to say 5,000 years older than anything that had been known, or at least two. It was several thousand years older than anything that had been built before. And so I'm sick, and all I'm doing is watching these YouTube videos, and I scroll by, and Joe Rogan pops up, and he's got Graham Hancock on there, and he's got all I'm doing is
Mhm.
watching Russell. I'm having another senior moment, but he has these people who are talking about it, and then like he's talking to all these other people, and he's just a freaking comedian, but yet he has millions of views, and he's talking to all these people. I'm like, even if I don't end up doing that, that would be cool, you know. So I started fumbling around myself. I knew my son had done some of it. I made some rather lame book reviews on a channel that I called Pose Hotel. And then I gave up on that, and I decided, well, I'll just make a YouTube channel that's an extension of my blog. And my original idea had been I would write a blog post, and then I would make movie, I would make a YouTube film thing about that using the very little bit of editing that I knew at the time. And I just kept doing that, and I slowed down when I got promoted at work. But recently, I tried to get more consistent, and in the process of getting more consistent, I also started interacting with more YouTubers. And the first one that I started interacting with was Moira McCabe, Moira Kitty. And I interacted
Mhm.
with her because she was very deep into uh, politics, and she was very knowledgeable, especially about our local Oklahoma politics. So I'd watch her videos and I'd interact with her a little bit, not like going on the channel, but being in her chat and stuff. And then from her, I got introduced to Roger Allen Athay, the reality based guy. And so I
Mhm.
started hanging out in his chats and listening to his stuff. And I was listening to his formula of how he interviews people. And that was intriguing me quite a bit. And then from him, I got introduced to you and started following
Yes.
you and watching your stuff, and learning. I mean, probably slowly because I learned very slowly, but learning a little bit as I watched you, and then through you, I got introduced to Troy and Netter, and Netter was very kind. Either that, or she was has bad eyesight and thought she was looking at a different site altogether. I don't know, but she invited me on, and so that's made me think. Well, let's get more a little more aggressive. Let's make more live streams. Let's interact with other people's live streams more often. And while I haven't arrived by any stretch at all, here I am today talking to you, and I am very excited to do that. So thank you.
Well,
I really
you're very
enjoy your
welcome.
stuff.
Thank you for coming on. Um,
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very
there's
much. I
no
hope I.
place to go from There's no place to go for you from here but down. No. Um,
Yes,
I don't
Matt.
know.
I'm
He
trying.
What happened to Curtis? Well, he went on that deleted scenes guy show and was never heard from again.
It's okay. I've been living in relative anonymity anyway, so if this is my 15 minutes of fame, I'm just grateful for that.
Drag out that 15 minutes as long as possible.
Yes, I must do all I can with it.
Living life 15 minutes at a time. Okay. I do
I'm
want
gonna
to say
get.
hello to someone who's joined us in the chat. Future man, Sashi.
Hi, Sashi.
You were saying.
Singaporean chef. Go ahead. Sorry. I have a bad ADHD. I have a bad habit of trying to read all the chat stuff.
Oh no, that's perfectly fine. I'm fine. I try to interact with the chat as much as possible. So yes, as Matt is
So
building a community because it is very much a network,
yes,
and it is quite frankly how you level up. You know,
that is
and
true. I never figured that out until recently. So there it is.
and I mean that's why I always hate it when these people who don't know what they're talking about call us grifters. Because it's like it's not like we're not made of money. We're not millionaires who do this.
No.
We have jobs and we have responsibilities and we're trying to make rent. And
Yes.
for those who's a renter, in my case, since I do own this joint, I do have to upkeep it, and that takes time and money. So it's
Mhm.
it's not, we are not getting rich off of this by any means. And
No.
that's why I'm always in awe of the channels that they can make a living doing this.
That is profoundly, I don't know that I'm ever going to get there, but yeah, I'm impressed as heck, especially now that I've done this a little bit and I have a little better idea of how much work it takes to do it. Now there's a channel, and I don't want to mock the channel. With my luck, it'll be the only time he ever looks at me. Curtis Selby said what? But there's a channel on here, and he's talking about how you build a network and you make a bunch of channels, you make a bunch of money. And I'm not saying that to be mocking. It probably sounds like I am, but I'm like, I would just be happy if I knew how to make a good icon right now, or if I knew how to make a good thumbnail. you
Mhm.
know. But I've been trying to make. Yeah, there probably isn't much rhyme to my reason right now, but I've tried to make every video maybe a little tiny shred better than the last one.
Mhm.
Since I've been networking, I've been making. I don't know that I've made more than maybe one or two actual videos, but I've tried to experiment more with the live streams. Uh, Simply because it's honestly it's more of a network kind of thing. I sit alone in solitude making the video, and it may get more views possibly, but it's not, as far as I can tell, they're not really resonating with more than two or three people. Whereas when I go into the chat with you guys and make a video and two or three of you show up, I know that I've actually touched the heart of Ned or Lady V or Delete.
Mhm.
I've actually made at least a tiny bit of an impact on those few people. And anyway, that's why I'm doing it now. And I still need to come up with a really good true strategy, but definitely I'm watching you guys. I'm trying to take pointers. I'm trying to learn as quickly as my tired, slow mind will allow me. And I'm just very grateful to be here. It seems like very nearly everyone that I've interacted with has been a wonderful person. There's a lot of it's funny they talk about diversity. I think I've seen more diversity in this community than I've
Mhm.
ever had involved in any other thing that I've done in my life anyway. And it's not forced, it's not crammed down our throats. It's just people who are volunteering to come and listen to each other and support each other. And thank you, Lady B. You know,
Yes.
I am a little bit jealous of you, Deleted. Lady V is just something else. But you know what? My hat's off to you. And always, I wish happiness to everyone who isn't trying to like tear everyone down. And I have yet to find someone in this community who's like that, except for the occasional spammer who just mysteriously disappears. Uh, you know.
Yeah. That does happen. Um, it's weird because I've seen it happen a lot more lately on Cosme during the watch party
Yeah.
streams than I've actually seen. Because when I started out, and I'm talking like this is years ago. You're in the days of war, back in the infancy of YouTube, back 80 years ago. There was this time. Now, but when I started out on YouTube, lots of channels had trouble with bots,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that's really when the mods kind of came in handy. You know, now there really isn't much for them to do except drop links, and unless you're on like one of the bigger channels where they're more likely, you know, to get somebody who's going to troll the chat or be, and whatnot. Um, really, I only had trouble one time, and that was during this live kind of out of the theater review that I did, because I reviewed this movie called Spirited. It was the first time I went to the movie the mystery movie nights,
Oh, cool.
and that was really the only time that I had an issue with bots, was during that show, and the only person who was watching me that night was Jedi Bill. Yeah, no,
Okay.
because I just dropped it. He was literally the only one watching.
Right.
And he was just
Right.
trying to say hello and be nice, and all of a sudden, like, porn bots just started popping
Yes.
up out of nowhere. Which back then was an issue, but that was the first time it had ever happened during one of my programs. So you have to
Right.
understand, I didn't have an admin. I don't have
Hmm.
I didn't have any wrenches yet, because I never,
Right.
thought to assign any, because I was so small fry. But that's after that I started thinking, okay, maybe this is something I need to kind of try and level up and look into, and
Yes.
yeah.
100%. I
So
would
when
like
I,
to
I got,
acknowledge. Go ahead. Sorry.
Mhm.
Matt Cheatwood just said that you have to be willing to be bad at something in order to get good at it, and
Mhm.
it probably took me 45 years, well, 40 years anyway, to learn that I was always so terrified of being bad at things, and then I finally, late in life, I realized that, well, duh, if you don't ever get better at anything, you will always be bad at everything. So you might, pick something, be bad at it, but make it better. And um, so I've tried to be a little more consistent with this than I've done with other things in the past, and I haven't made a dime on it yet, but that's okay. Maybe that's coming, maybe it's not, but uh, maybe maybe I get five people thinking about some topic and it helps their life be better, or something like that. And hey, Big Al presents. I would like to say he is the first person who
Yeah,
was
yes,
ever
Biggie
in the
Presents is
chat.
here.
Yes, yes, he was the first person who was ever in one of my chat rooms. So good on you. Thank you, Big Al.
Hey, very,
Poor
very
guy.
popular presence on my channel here.
I like him. I like his
Yeah.
10-word reviews. That's very unique. You won't. I don't think
Mhm.
you'll get that anywhere else. At least not that actually works anyway. I like his 10
Yeah.
word reviews.
In fact, Al has a new 10-word video up right now for Rebel Moon Part 2, a uh, a review I happen to agree on, pretty much word for word. He's, how am I going to review this now? Because I was going to say everything Al was going to say. Al said, and he kind of beat me to it. So
Well, the
okay,
trick to that, you just look up the synonyms
yeah.
and say what you're doing. And Sashi, I like what he said. Good luck on your business endeavors, Big Al. I'm with you on. I haven't seen Rebel, but I will say this: since joining this community, I think I've watched more movies since joining this community than I have in 4 years. Because I've just since recovering from being sick, it's just been balls to the wall trying to get my life back together and fixed. And again, Matt Cheatwood was a huge help to that. I can never thank him enough for all he's done for me. But I just didn't have the time to watch a movie. It was work, come home, clean the house, maybe read a few pages, and then crash. And then rinse and repeat for months, sometimes almost sometimes a year or two at a time. So I have this community to thank for that too. I've watched so many good movies that I'm very grateful for that. So thank you.
Mhm.
The thesaurus is Big Al's friend.
Yeah.
I like
And of course,
dinosaurs too.
yes, thesauruses were creatures that lived 65 million years ago and had an exceptional vocabulary.
Abigail. I
Abigail.
do not know what Abigail is. I am an
Uh,
ignorant person.
yeah, Abigail's the movie with the little ballerina vampire.
So now you need to be impressed that I'm not trying to sing Ballerina Girl. But and just imagine that tune with Ballerina Vampire instead, and you'll have the effect that I would love to have across here. Sashi is saying, I decided to watch Rebel Moon recently. Jimon Honsu
Mhm.
has been fighting in the gladiator arena since the age of Maximus.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Well, I keep talking.
Yeah.
Do you have any
No,
questions? What would you like to say or
no,
ask
that's
about?
fine. This is the chance for you to kind of take over, and
Well,
let's check.
if
One
if
thing I know that you did want to hit on was the whole situation with Hasbro, and you said you had some blog entries that you wanted to go
yes,
into. Yeah, why don't we just go ahead and jump into that right now?
I will, if that's okay. And now on my
Yeah,
own
sure.
blog, I am boring and just read them, but I won't do
Hmm.
that on yours because I want to actually entertain your audience. But if I'm able to present,
Hmm.
let's see if I'm smart enough to do this. I've done it before, I promise. Here we go. Okay, so I don't know if that's showing. Yes. Okay, so this
Yeah.
was what I wrote about a year and some odd months ago. Um, reference back to having been sick, I kind of fell out of the loop of what was going on in the world, and when I crawled back out of my pit, I started playing some 5e D&D, which was great and amazing. But then, just within a few months of that, um, Hasbro decided they wanted to play with the licensing. And I was trying to figure out what my friends were all so upset about. And so I wrote about it because that's kind of my therapy. Um, again, I won't read it per se, but I might scroll through and just basically talk about how, you know, back in my day, we had Wizards of the Coast, and Wizards of the Coast was um, basically they were the people who had taken over after Gary Gygax, who was one of the co-creators of the game, had been run off and basically been told to go do his own thing, and they'd done to him basically a similar thing to what they did to Steve Jobs at Apple. And so, Wizards of the Coast did a lot of good things, but they were terrible business people, as Gary Gygax had also been. So they produced a lot of great games, they produced a lot of great products, but they ran the company into the ground. And then Wizards of the Coast was bought out by the Magic the Gathering people, and the Magic the Gathering people actually did a pretty good job, I guess, because I was married by now and didn't really know what the heck was going on in the world. All I knew was I was paying bills, and just there it was. But evidently, they did a good job. They rehashed things. They built it back up. But after they built it up, it became a nice cash cow. And so, rather like Marvel with Disney, they sold out to Hasbro. Well, for a while, Hasbro was smart. Part of the agreements had been that they came up with a licensing scheme, where you couldn't use copyrighted material, but you could create your own podcasts. You could do things like what Critical Role's doing. You used their game, but it was your setting, and that was fine. The licensing said that was okay. But eventually it came to the point where Hasbro was like, well, where's our cut? We're not making enough. And so they decided that they would change that licensing. Well, that put dozens of creators, it basically put their livelihoods on the line. So I wrote about that, and I think probably this is not the best one to be looking at, honestly. It's probably this one. So yes, I wrote about how a lot of the creators were very upset about that, and a lot of this was new to me at the time. I mean, D&D was an old thing that I loved in the past, but I was just coming back out, from the grave basically, and relearning these things. And just as I'm crawling out, I'm finding that, well, heck, it's actually in danger. So, so I wrote about it just so that I could know about it, and also to share it with the few followers that I had. And I talk here about Critical Role. The new licensing would have cut into the business if they had gross revenues higher than 50,000, which, I mean, let's think about it. 50,000. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of money for me, but if you've got a DM and 7 or 8 players, it's not very much, and you're basically destroying nearly their entire income. Let's see. I talk a little bit about the history right here. I talk about the Satanic Panic that happened in the 80s. That was fun. Embarrassingly enough, back in the day, I didn't play D&D because as a teenager, I foolishly believed that I might be going to hell if I played D&D. And hey, Moira Kitty, how are you doing? Everybody's here to talk about D&D. What a world. So let's see. Mayfair Games, maker of Rolaids. Here I talk about the politics that had gone on between Gary Gygax, Brian Bloom, and Kevin Bloom. Basically, I'm having a senior moment. I can't remember the names of the 2 creators, but he was one of them, and he was the face of the company, but these 2 were the actual businessmen. And eventually they basically pushed him out. Let's see. Medium.com goes on with a very in-depth history of how Gygax was fired. He was given his golden parachute with which he attempted to purchase back control. It was too little, too late. And yes, I make fun of my own posts here. I like to throw in little stuff that just to remind myself not to take too much seriousness of myself. So anyway, this is like just a little example. Mostly I'll write about politics, but in this case, It's more of the politics of the gaming industry and how the fans and a good number of the creators, that's what they want. It's like Netter and Troy were. It's like Troy and the Geeky Geezer were talking about. We want good characters. We want good stories. We want beautiful settings and fun and funny, but yes, also tragic stories. But the companies, all they want is to just give us these cookie cutter, these things that are formulaic and they think that it succeeds and it might once or twice, but in the end, people realize that it's empty and dead and they don't want to mess with it. And then basically, here I'm talking about how second edition was falling apart and the licensing they had at the time was undercutting creators. Nobody could afford to do any creating, and basically D&D cut its own throat. And then I talk about Ryan Delancey, who essentially helped Hasbro take it over, and then was ironically fired because he was actually giving the players what they wanted. I talk about Pathfinder and how Pathfinder was in the beginning a bunch of people who love D&D and they're trying to make maps and adventures and things like that. So Hasbro was like, that's really great. You're canceled. Bye. And so they took their stuff and went on their own, and now they're Pathfinder and they're the second biggest thing, and they're actually amazing. So anyway, I've been talking a lot. If you have anything to interject or questions or anything like that, this is just for fun. This is one of the few pictures you'll ever see of me in Stranger Things, which also has made D&D much more famous than it had been before. So, but again, I don't mean to take over the whole stream or anything.
No, that's fine. When it comes to D&D, it's kind of a mystery to me because I didn't play either. I not for what was the quote unquote satanic elements around it, because I never felt that was there. I just looked at it as that was something the older kids did.
I got you.
And it was just to me not really an interest. I wasn't against it, but it is something that I would kind of maybe like to get into at some point, if I found the right group, perhaps.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes, and Darth Plato says he did D&D and it was a comedy of horrors. That can be true if you're not like I've been in groups where it was just painful, yes, and Matt Cheatwood also is saying that this highlights the value of competition. When there's a monopoly, you get what they want you to have, or you get nothing, and he's not wrong. D&D just got really big, became a kind of almost a virtual monopoly, and so they just thought, well, you guys will take what we give you and like it, and well, there's some gamers who thought differently. Warhammer is a great alternative, although I've never played it. And I know we talked about that in the earlier stream. When I got to college, so here, let me share something just to exasperate everybody. Go back. I think it was this one. So this one, I talk more about my own personal journey into it. And I talk about the Satanic Panic a little bit. This is what is called a chick track. And what a chick track is there was a gentleman in the 70s and 80s whose name was Chick, and he would write these abominable cartoons that were supposed to be trying to evangelize people, but basically they were just teaching them a bunch of lies and pointlessness. And this was one of them. He wrote this thing about D&D, and I'm embarrassed to admit, but I actually believed this tripe when I was a teenager. And here you see, you know, the girl is dead, and now she's out of the game because her character is dead, and you can't play anymore. And your cleric has been raised to the 8th level. I think it's time that you learn how to really cast spells. You know, and of course she gets introduced to Satanism, and it's a bunch of garbage. But as a kid, I actually believed this because I was like in a weird cult-like setting. But my commentary here, I hope it's okay that I'm unduly proud of it. The Satanic Panic of the 80s. My church passed these tracts out. They meant well, but a 12-year-old Curtis was terrified by these ill-written propaganda pieces. First of all, I've rarely known a D&D game to have women, let alone be exclusively women. Second, if your character dies, you just roll up another character. So, but then I talk about the history of learning into it, and I went to college, and a lot of the people that I saw playing were Christians, and they were like good Christians, not, you know, horrible hypocrites like sometimes I've seen in other places. And so I thought, well, if they're good Christians and they're playing, and I don't see them worshiping Satan, it's probably okay. So I rolled up a character and I played it, and I had a lot of fun. And it just, for me, it goes along with the character, with the creativity. I just love the story that goes along with it. I know a lot of computer games have done a fair job, like World of Warcraft has done a good job of recreating a lot of that dynamic. But to me, just the nearly infinite capacity of just a normal person's creativity to make up a story, to make up a character, and then everyone interacts and they make up their own story in this world. To me, with the right group anyway, it is a blast. It is just a blast. And if you get the chance to watch a little bit of Critical Role, I've only seen a few episodes, but the few that I've seen were actually very entertaining, very fun. I hope I get to watch the rest of it one of these days. So anyway, there it is. That's at least a portion of my spiel on D&D. Ta-da!
Well, one thing that brought a lot of that on was there was a movie on TV in the early 80s. I'm sure you've probably seen this, called Mazes and Monsters.
I haven't seen it, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It was very, very early Tom Hanks film. And where his character is kind of into, well, as they call it in the movie, Mazes and Monsters. They don't call it D&D, they call it Mazes and Monsters. And he basically flips out and starts thinking that it's real. You know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's it seemed it's one of those that seemed like a good movie at the time, but I've seen it recently and it's
Not so
really kind of
good.
boring and silly and kind of
Well,
obviously he's mentally ill before, so
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it's yeah.
that movie was very roughly based off of a quote unquote real incident.
Mhm.
Um, there was a student, there was a college student, and as you say, he was already disturbed. And this is something I've learned. I have seen some people that went off the rails, but invariably they're people who are already, they're already running off the track already. If it wasn't D&D, it would have been drugs, or I mean, you name it. It would have been something else. But there was a guy who evidently, I don't remember the whole story. It's in my blog actually, but since I don't want to completely bore you guys with looking up stuff constantly, if memory serves, he killed himself, and I think there was some more to it, but since I don't remember it, you know,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna try to puff up the story. But at the very least, he killed himself, and they found all this D&D memorabilia and all this demonic stuff, and so of course that's what they latched on to. And the
Mhm.
parent was disturbed, and I get it. I've had a child with their life in danger, so I get it. You get upset, and you just grasp at anything, but they just grasped at that. Well, it was D&D. That's what killed them. And the police were like, well, yeah, it was D&D. That's what killed him. And like I say, if it hadn't been D&D, it probably would have been cocaine, or who knows. Uh,
Mhm.
but Gary Gygax at the time, he got out his lawyers and he tried to point out to them that this is just a game. They didn't believe in demons. It's okay if you do, but I'm just saying they didn't. Um, we're not trying to teach children anything except to play a game and have a good time and make up their own stories and stuff. Darth Plato is saying that they heard a story about a pastor
Mhm.
who threw a D&D game into a fire, and you could hear the demons screaming in agony. So that's fun.
Yeah. I'm going to go with no.
No, not so much. And hello, the Bosco scenario.
Yes, Pascal Scenarios joined us.
Lady V cannot listen to subliminal messages backward. And Darth Plato is also talking about that, the subliminal
Mhm.
messages backward. Would it be appropriate to share one thing? Well, first off, somebody's asked why I have Johnny Bravo in the
Yeah.
blog. So let me get back, if that's okay.
Sure.
So here I'm basically making a joke. I talk about how D&D gets bought out by Hasbro and they turn profitable and make a bunch of money. And this is lame. This is an insider joke. There's probably two people who read this who understood it, but there is an episode of Johnny Bravo where he's trying to get a gift for his mother and he can't earn any money to save his life. Well, his little girl next door neighbor sells her lemonade recipe, which is lemons, water, and sugar. She sells it for $1 million, and she decides to go into the backyard and build a money house. So this is my lame joke here. The Wizards of the Coast president Cynthia Williams builds a money house from the profits made from D&D as Hasbro CEO Chris Cooks, actually Johnny Bravo, looks on. My lame attempt at a joke. Thank you very much. So it's explaining the jokes. It takes all the time. I scared everybody away.
No, no worries, no worries. And speaking of jokes, Sasha has also said in the chat, what we don't want is Marvel humor and Transformers. That Transformers trailer was cringe. Yes, yes, it was.
I guess I
There's
don't know
a
what that is. I mean, I know
yeah, there's
Transformers.
a
I don't know
yes,
there's a trailer.
there's an animated Transformers movie coming up called Transformers One. It's an animated film. It's a prequel. It's kind of Optimus Prime before he was Optimus Prime, but there's a lot of Marvel type humor in it. It just comes off like they're trying to do another Guardians.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't, like Darth Plato, I haven't been following Transformers in a hot minute. It's been a long
Mm.
time. And Troy is in there saying that actually Prince had a song on his Purple Rain album that has a backward track. Hello, how are you? I'm fine because the Lord is coming soon. That's
Yeah, I've heard that.
There's a Christian group called Petra. They did Christian rock back in the day. And one of their songs has like some gibberish at the beginning. And if you play it backwards, it says, "Why are you looking for the devil when you should be looking for the Lord?" And I've always, my beliefs have changed a little bit with time, but I still love that. It's just so ridiculous to be trying to find idiotic messages in backward played things. And I stopped it on this. If I was on my channel, I'd actually play it. But I don't want to take over yours. But this sums up perfectly how I feel about the Satanic Panic. It's wizards with guns, and they have megachurch pastors playing D&D, and it's all a joke. I mean, it's just a spoof, but it's so funny. It's just beautifully funny. So if you want to, know how it feels to be someone who's been a Christian and yet also someone who loves D&D, this will give you some idea of how that is. So, Laverne and Shirley and Chips. I am completely lost. What is Laverne and Shirley and Chips?
Oh, they were shows in the 70s and 80s. TV shows.
I know Laverne and Shirley. Oh, he's saying Laverne and Shirley and Chips.
And
I'll wake up
Chips
today. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't. So was I know there's gamers in the community. Were you into any of the computer games, or what were you into?
Oh, me? Well, I was more of, there was a while there where, as far as I was concerned, video games peaked with Dragon's Lair. To me, that was that was the pinnacle. That was the game that everybody wanted to play.
Yes.
But the thing is you have to learn to get good at it.
Yes.
But there were so many people in line that basically as soon as you got killed, you had to relinquish your turn.
Yes.
So, I played Dragon's Lair maybe on average of about 3 or 4 minutes each time.
Yeah.
And then wait half the day in line, and then just basically, I don't want to wait in line anymore.
Yeah.
So But I was more of the old school games, Pac-Man, Galaga,
Hmm.
one of my favorites, Space Invaders, Centipede Defender, that was my day. And then of course you had the home consoles, and I had an Atari, and
Hmm.
one was for games and the other one was for school, and that was
I
basically what
know.
I did. Um,
That's fantastic. Star Code. Darth Plato is asking if anyone remembers the
yeah, Starcade.
I
Yes,
don't.
I watched that all the time.
I must have been
It
a
was on
kid. So
it was on TBS, and I think at around like 5 in the afternoon.
okay, okay. No, I
Yeah,
missed that one.
it
Um.
was basically a game show where kids played video games.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get into video games much as a kid. I was poor. I was working on the farm and stuff. So,
Mhm.
uh, but hold on. Sorry, I didn't hit the mute button quickly enough. But
Mhm.
I guess I'm coughing at my own lack of video game experience. But when I got into college, I got a little bit into some of the computer games. The one that I got into the deepest, there was before it was World of Warcraft. I really loved Warcraft 2, and partly because it reminded me of D&D so much. Um, and while I'm not a great strategist, I've always been a wannabe strategist, and I love that aspect of the orcs against the elves, and we're gonna outwit them with mines here and these kind of weapons here and all that. Uh, the other game that I liked back then was something called Marathon, and I would be very surprised if there's even two people who remember that in here, but hopefully there is. But Marathon was Halo before Halo was Halo. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Plato. I never did. I never touched the online game. Uh, Sadly, I got married by then, and once I got married, video games and all that was right out. That wasn't going to happen. Um, and I hate to admit this, maybe I shouldn't, but I was also always a fan of Leisure Suit Larry. It was just so fun.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I never played EverQuest. Darth Plato is saying he played like EverQuest. I saw people play it, but I never played it myself. So Matt Cheatwood saying EQ and EQ2 for me.
Yeah, when you start getting into kind of like the online games, like the Warcrafts and the Fortnites, and I'm not really an authority on those. I've never really played any online games.
Matt Cheatwood says the Lord of the Rings games online ate his life for years.
Oh,
Um,
I don't doubt it.
I know, deleted your niche is more movies, I believe. What are your
Yeah, I'm more
favorite
movies,
movies?
film. Yeah. Um,
I mean, I'm learning.
it kind of depends on it kind of depends on what mood I'm in, really.
Understand.
Um, I could say Citizen Kane one day. I could say Pulp Fiction on another.
Yes.
You know, but the thing that's always kind of sad about that is having to go back 30 or 40 years for something that's good, you know, because movies, most of the movies made these days don't really measure up
They sure don't resonate
to what I
with
grew
me.
up watching.
Yes.
And
Yes. I would agree with that.
so there's a lot of that. One of the reasons why we're doing the Twin Peaks retrospective, aside from the fact that we were big fans of the show, was that we could bring it to an audience that maybe hadn't seen it. You know, Matt is saying the first Matrix movie was fun.
Yep.
And it
It was
is.
really
Yeah.
I loved it.
It is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the sequels,
I'm afraid I tried the second one and just couldn't. Maybe it was just because of the mood I was in that day, but I just couldn't get through it. And I've never even tried the rest of them, but I love the first one. I've always loved the first one. One of the first
one.
things I did. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. You're making a point. Go ahead.
No. So after I left my ex-wife, I kind of went a little bit crazy, and I went on a movie watching binge for a while, at least as long as I could afford it, and then real life caught up again. But one of the things that I made sure to watch after I left her was John Wick.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this, at least as far as movies made in the last 15 years, I really enjoyed that one. I've not watched any of the sequels. I have no idea. But I really like the John Wick film. So, Matrix 2, according to Darth Plato, was Superman in black and sunglasses. And Matt Cheatwood is saying, I enjoyed the philosophy aspects of Matrix, and that John Wick was a classic story. So,
yeah.
One of my guilty pleasures. I love a good revenge story. Darth Plato says Matrix 2 and 3 were DEI way before. Oh, geez.
I don't know if I would go quite that far. Maybe a little things here and there.
Right. Right.
But
Sashi says Matrix slowly turned into Mech Warrior in the later movie. And Darth Plato, I appreciate you have that opinion. I don't know because I haven't.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I just Matrix 2 I can comment on a little, but I can't. I mean, I haven't even seen Matrix 3, so my bad. But slowly on y'all's channels, I'm getting caught up on movies again, things like that. Mech Warrior 5. Darth Plato says Mech Warrior 5 was a great game. I played a little bit of Mech Warrior.
I'm not familiar with that, so.
It's been a hot minute since I played that, but yeah. Or actually, no, I'm not thinking Mech Warrior. I'm thinking BattleTech from way back in the 90s. Is a kind of a board strategy game where you had a figure that was a mech and there were rules for the fighting and stuff. That was really fun. Robotech, Matt Cheatwood saying. So I know you've also been doing hopefully I'm not stepping on a toe here, but I know you've been doing
No, it's fine.
How has that been going?
I did, yeah. That's actually kind of a funny story.
Okay.
I started I started watching a channel out of the UK. A guy calls himself Criminali,
Oh.
and that sent me down the whole booktuber rabbit hole. You know, because
Oh.
as much as I like movies, I like to read as well. Even though,
Yes.
and I'm kind of getting to this in a roundabout way. Anyway, he had on his channel this read what you own challenge,
Yes.
and the idea is to, and the way that he explained it on his channel was to read 100 books within a year.
Wow. I could have done
Yeah,
that as a kid. Now I don't know. That
no,
would
you know, but last year when I've made my first attempt at it, and you can see the video is still up. I didn't take it down. I probably should have, but I didn't.
eh,
You know, whereas like I was really hyped, I was really into it, and I'm going to read 100 books, and I read one.
I understand. I I
You
totally
know,
understand.
because
Life
I
is
went
what it
back to
is.
work, and
Mhm.
Tim Hayes, God bless him, he warned me.
Yeah.
You're biting off more than you can chew, basically. And he was right. I was basically between work and trying to grow the channel and other things that were going on, I just never really got around to it. But now
Yeah.
I've gotten to a point now where it says maybe now would be a good time
Okay.
for me to go back to it, because I was somebody who used to read a book a week
Yes.
or
It's
2 weeks, and I really want to get back to that.
I would love that too. It's been about
You know,
25 years for me, and I still read a
Mhm.
little bit every day, but a book a week, I haven't done that. I haven't done that in 25 years. I have not.
Mhm.
Um, for about like after I got sick, I decided to have a goal to read. Well, first I had the goal of keeping track of the
Mhm.
number of books I read, and then the next year I was determined to read that many plus one, and I ended up accomplishing that. But then the next year was just kind of a train wreck. So, I had other goals that I focused on.
Mhm.
Matt Cheatwood is asking if anyone has read the Chronicles of Amber by Roger Zelazny. I've heard of it, but I haven't read them. I've not read them.
I haven't, no.
Yeah. Darth Plato is also making a good point. He says he was, or they're saying that they're in academia for
And he's
20
in,
years. I shouldn't assume as a male, but so most of what
yeah,
I read wasn't easy reading, and that's a valid point. If you try to
yeah, true.
read one book of Dostoevsky's every week, unless
No,
you're a lot faster than me, it ain't gonna happen.
no.
So
I made it a point to say, I'm going to ease back into it by choosing shorter books.
yes,
Um,
I think that's
and
smart.
it's like I'd like to read Lord of the Rings, but I'm not going to start
With
a
that,
book challenge with it.
yeah, yeah, I
Because
understand.
that's going to take me some time. Um,
Yeah,
but
I would
yeah, I
like to
mean,
reread that again.
I have enough books in this house to start my own library. You know, it would be good if I sat down and actually read some of them. You know,
Yeah, I'm
um,
not too far from it. I don't know, but just estimating, I think I have about 700. Um, which, I mean, I know there's people who have more, but uh, it's been a fair amount. Darth Plato is saying I'm rereading Henry Kissinger at the moment, which is awesome, but I'll bet that's hard to do in a week. If you do it,
hmm,
I will be very impressed. I'm just saying that. And Softy is saying I have read what I own several times over. Nice. It's my weird ability to read a novel a day. That is impressive.
yeah, yeah, indeed.
Like that. That's fantastic. Troy is saying start with the secret history of Twin Peaks and Twin
Uh-huh.
Peaks, the final crossing. I think that's fantastic
And this
advice.
is, you know, this is after he told me don't read them because they give away season 3. Now he wants
Well,
me to read them.
he's hoping you get through season 3 in a bit. I've also thought about that, like the way you guys do the Cosme thing, and I've thought about, well, what would I want to present, and all that. But those are all things that are just percolating in my head. I don't have solid ideas or plans yet on that. But I love that the community does that. It's like, especially since the disease that shall not be named, uh, it's so hard to get people together anymore. And it's been nice to be able to have a bunch of you people, and it almost reminds me of being back in college again when we went and watched Army of Darkness and heckled it but loved it at the same time. you know um God, that film was, I didn't get to see, my life has been interesting, but there's not many films I've gotten to see in the big screen. But I got to see that one, damn it, and that was fun. It was fun to watch Army of Darkness on the big screen. My boomstick, yes, Matchy would. uh, I have often
Yeah.
thought that it would be a great idea, since my name is Selby, to open a store and call it S Smart and have the workers shop smart, shop S
Yeah.
Smart.
I actually have an autographed copy of one of Bruce Campbell's books,
Oh,
and he
that's
has that written in there, where it says shop smart, shop S smart in the book, and I was like, that is so cool. Yeah,
Darth
I'll have
Plato.
to. I have to find that sometime.
Darth Plato
Even the
says you
Cliff
got
Note.
Jack and Shite, and Jack left town. And
Left Town.
Troy is saying, even the
Yeah.
coefficient notwithstanding, our community is spread across the country and around the world. So the watch party is really, I mean, it has been interesting. There's people from, I don't really even know, but it seems like everywhere. And you may only have 4 or 5 people in the chat, or you may have, like, been in some of Admiral Teague's that seem to have 20 or 30. I haven't yet gone into the great big ones, if there are any great big ones with the hundreds or what have you. But it's been fascinating to me to see all these people just gathering together to watch a movie and have a decent time like people used to do. But anyway, now that I've killed the conversation, do you want to start it back up?
No, that's fine. No, I was going to ask, because you said you had kind of a brief period. How much longer do I have you for before I have to
Well, it depends. If we
get you
have
out?
a really good topic, maybe 10 or 20 more minutes. And if we don't,
Okay.
maybe just 5 or 10. So
Uh, Um,
reference back to
I,
what
I'll
you had
I'll
in
think of it.
your, go ahead.
No, please.
No, that's it. I guess the only topic I can think of is let's see if I'm smart enough to remember. Um, I have senior moments that are just appalling. Lester, San Jose,
Oh yes,
possibly most
yeah.
people know, but I guess today is supposed to be his last day in the hospital. So anyone that prays or anyone that wants to send
Hmm.
out positive vibes or send him a message or something. Uh, and like the only reason why I know about it, because I mean, I like the guy, but I'm not like tight close with him. But after watching somebody's stream, I can't even remember whose, uh, I was having some trouble going to sleep, so I was trying to find something to watch on TV to make me feel sleepy. And his live stream just popped straight up, and he was in the hospital, like out of nowhere, and he was
Hmm.
talking about it. And I know several of you watched it, so you know what happened. But I just want to, you know, say that it was one of those
Yeah.
weird things that you don't ever expect to happen. But I just happened to see that he was there, and I was thinking, if I was in the hospital, I would sure want people to be thinking and praying and whatever, whatever people do. So uh, there it is. But he's
Well,
getting better. Whatever.
he is, and he's definitely sounding better because I know that he was not well when he was on my member stream,
Yeah, yeah.
but I didn't know that.
How
And
bad?
I guess he didn't either know how bad off he was, and then a couple of days later, um,
There he was.
that's when I found out. In fact, I think I found out through you that he was actually in the hospital.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
It was just weird,
but
I mean, like I say, I was trying to go to bed. I was a little bit sick myself, but not hospital type sick.
mhm.
And well, Connie Clary says she wasn't in the chat.
Sorry, she wasn't in the chat.
Well, um,
Well, that's fine.
yeah.
That happens.
Oh, chatting
Yeah.
with a friend on something. No, that's okay. I mean, my heart will go on. Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I'm.
But yeah, I mean, that
Go ahead. Please proceed.
no, obviously the thing to do there, folks, is that if there is something that is medically wrong, don't hesitate. Get yourself looked at. Um, as Lester did, he said, "Look, because he was to the point to where he was like, okay, this is past, taking an aspirin for, so
Yeah,
he went, he got himself checked out, so he's getting the care that he needs, and hopefully here in a couple of weeks or so, if not earlier, he will be back on with us, and we will welcome him back with open arms. You know,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. I've watched a few
because
of his videos.
Yeah.
He's a really cool guy. I like him. So, well,
Yeah, that's a thing though that I do want to bring, because you do, on occasion, you start to lose track of people as you
yeah,
get, like I said, because this is a network, you know. Um,
yes.
there was a channel um, that I watched really early on called the Bad Movie Night Podcast. It's
Ooh,
Chris Rupert's channel, and
sounds right up the alley. Yeah.
yeah, and when I first started paying attention to YouTube and being into chats and whatnot, and this is before I put up any of my own content or showed up on anybody else's channel. Really, I was into chats for Bad Movie Night, and
Hmm.
uh, and then it just grew to the point to where I just kind of lost track, and I wasn't watching their shows from week to week, which I feel kind of really bad about. But I want to go back to that. And
Yeah.
so you do have this, you do lose track of people, and there are people who from the chats who kind of disappear, and you don't know what happened. There was a Das Dees who used to be in a lot of
Mm.
um, Midnight's Edges chats, and I went on like a few member streams with him, and he disappeared. Um, and then there are some people after a while they decide they want to do other things.
Yeah.
Um, or they just
And
they
yeah.
got to kind of unplug. They look, you know, it does happen, but it's like I feel bad sometimes because I feel like I'm not supporting certain channels the same way they supported mine.
Yeah, I get that. And
You know,
and yet at the
and
same time, it's like what it gets overwhelming sometimes when I look at all those channels that I've subscribed to, and I'm like,
mhm,
who do I support? And so I just kind of, okay, this one helped me out, so let's let's support them where I can. And this
yeah,
one helped me out. But no, it's I am learning that it's great to have a network, but it's also overwhelming. And yeah, Matt Chewood says sometimes all you can do is pay it forward. So
mm,
that's true. Uh, I'm just kind of taking it a day at a time, and depending on how busy I am, I only may catch one or two of somebody's streams a day, but I uh, try to catch them, or I try to watch something, from the past or something. Darth Plato is saying, I heard a sad story
yeah.
about this. A gal was daily in chat and said one day getting off the tornado warning and was never heard from again. Wow.
Mm,
Yeah. You never know. You just never know. My last night's post, I know Dad Man Walking, Moira Kitty, and Lady V Elements. It seems like someone else was there. I'm so sorry. I'm forgetting somebody. But I was just all melodramatic because um, you lose people, and sometimes you just they're gone, they're dead or whatever, and you can't get them back. Uh, Sashi, if you don't hear from me, it's probably the cops. Don't have to
Yeah.
worry much about natural disasters down here. Uh, well, um, just I don't know what to say to that. Maybe I don't know Sashi well enough to know what an appropriate joke would be for that. But I hope you dodge the cops well if that's the case. Um, well, sir, respectfully, I am starting to get tired. Do you want me to just drop out, or do you want?
No, that's quite all right. We'll go ahead and start wrapping things up. I do um, want to give you the opportunity to let everybody know what, if anything, you have coming up for your channel in the coming days. And
Well, so far,
go
yes.
ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Hmm.
Go ahead.
No, what
Well,
what do you have coming up?
I haven't really. I mean, I'm still very much uh, flying by the seat of my pants. And as Darth
Mhm.
Plato points out, the police sirens are drawing closer.
Yes.
Uh, my only real solid plan right now is to try to do at least one live stream of my own every, and I know this is so vague, but every either Friday or
Mhm.
Saturday at around midnight, since I'm the tired midnight blogger what blogs at midnight. Other than that, I'm just going to try to be on other people's channels. Now that I'm healthy again, I might try to make another actual vid, like a thing of me commenting on something with a bunch of spiffy uh, memes and pictures and stuff. Uh, Connie Cleary says she was one to help
Yeah.
break the news of two of the channel members that have passed on.
Yeah, we've lost some friends over the last few years for sure. Son of a red shirt who used to be on with he was on with Jedi Bill quite a bit, and I did a number of shows with him. Uh, he was one. There was a fella that Bill and Rambling Canuck knew pretty well named Admiral Doom,
Hmm.
who sadly passed away. That was before I really got involved with either channel, so I never got a chance to meet him. Um, he was one. There was a fella JJ who
Yeah.
I had been on. I had been on some live streams with, and we were going to collaborate on something. And he had told me after a show, he said, and we were kind of backstage, like, hey, we should do more stuff together. And he said, I've been playing around with an idea, and I want to talk to you about it. I'll DM you on Thursday, and we'll talk about it.
Right.
And I said, okay, fine. And he died on Tuesday.
Oh my gosh.
He never got back to me. Yeah,
That's
he was
terrible.
one. Cardinal Sin was another. Um,
Yeah, I've heard people talk about
recent.
Carter.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't
He
meet
he,
them.
he was a good guy.
But, mm, um, but then I know that I'm scheduled to be on Netter's Network for Thursday night.
Mhm.
Help a tired old man out. She has a name for it, and
That's
it's real cool.
that's Thursday things. Yeah,
Thursday things. Yes, I believe
yeah.
it's May 2. I hope I have that.
Yes, yes. May 2nd.
Uh,
Correct.
so it seems like I'm getting more people. Like Moira Kitty has been wanting to share stuff. I think she just wants to vent, and I'm happy to listen to her vent. Uh, um, you've been kind enough to have me on, and more people are showing up in my chats as I do my weird railings, poetry readings, and but like right now, I'm solidifying it, but at the moment, though, the only thing that I'm going to say is clad is in stone is Netter's Network, and depending on my weekend, it'll be either every Friday or every Saturday, and it'll also depend on who's streaming what. Because I'll be honest, if there's someone streaming something cool on Saturday, and I'm like, well, or but midnight, I will likely be doing a live stream, uh, and it seems like I'm doing roughly an hour. It seems like I tend to have about an hour's worth of rambling in me that is at least hopefully quasi entertaining. So, I'm absolutely open to suggestions. So if anyone
But
wants to hear anything, I'll be happy to talk about it if I know anything about it. So,
yeah. I mean, that's all I do, really. Somebody said once, well, your show's like a stream of consciousness. I'm like, yeah, go with that. Stream of consciousness, yeah, yeah, good.
Saturday, or when was it? I guess it was yesterday. That's how tired I am. I can't always remember what I was doing. But here the other day, I was going to do a live stream with Moira, right? And
Mhm.
Matt Cheatwood, politics and philosophy for me. And thank you. And Darth Plato is saying I talked with Cardinal Sin on RMB's channel.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was going to be on her channel, and I sent out. I probably didn't send out enough of them, but I tried to send out a few links to a few people, and I made the mistake of sending one out to my neighbor who doesn't do any of this stuff. I'm not meaning to crap on them. They don't do any of this stuff. And they misunderstood. They thought that I wanted them to come by and see me on that time. So I'm trying to basically be polite to this neighbor, but also like let them understand that I'm trying to go live and I'm trying to talk to somebody. And even if I don't exactly appear professional, at least do the best job I can for it. And so that was wild. I love that neighbor still, but I will probably not invite them again to any of these things because I'm trying to talk to Moira, trying to keep him kind of halfway entertained and quiet. Yeah, likely not going to happen again. So I want to be able to devote my attention to you guys because it's like Netter says, and it's true. Or you guys could be doing anything. You could be watching a Star Wars movie. You could be reading a comic book, but you're here instead, and that's fantastic. And I know Deleted does as well. I know Netter does. I know Troy does. All of you people who live stream do, but I appreciate that you're here when you could be doing anything else. You're actually here listening to me rant about stupid corporate D&D stuff and trying to bluff deleted scenes into believing that I'm actually entertaining to talk to. So thank you very much. I absolutely appreciate it.
Yeah, quite all right. Thank you for once again for taking the time out to come on. And later, V, later. Okay. All right.
Turns out Lady V is half of Deleted's income. She's got a top tier. Oh, thank you, Jedi Bill. You're very kind. You're very kind. I sure appreciate that. You're very kind. Thank you very much. And thank you, Connie. All of those emojis and all the birds, they make me happy. So
all right. Let everybody know what I'm doing for the next few days. Tomorrow, Since Corner and I are going to be reviewing the Mystery Movie Night at the Regal. Based on the clues we've been given on the subreddit, it's looking more and more like Boy Kills World might be the movie.
Yes.
Of course, we're not going to know until we get there. So stay tuned at 10 p.m. for a Mystery Movie Night and find out what the movie is and get our thoughts on it. And also, sometime tomorrow, I don't know exactly when, but sometime tomorrow I am going to review Rebel Moon Part 2. Even though Big Al Presents viciously stole my initial review. Now, we did have very similar thoughts on it from the looks of things. So, yeah. So that's going to be sometime tomorrow. Don't know exactly when. Stay tuned to my community page. Of course, Tuesday at 8:30. Will be live from Sparkwood in 21, my Twin Peaks retrospective series with Troy Pacelli, Netters Network, and Aged Boomer. Wednesday at 8 o'clock, Jedi Bill and I are going to be watching and discussing episodes 2 and 3 of Fallout. And let's see, that gets us on over to Thursday for Action Theater. And we're going to be watching Equalizer. That's going to be at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. All right. Curtis, any last words before we close it out?
Nothing other than that I'm also loving Fallout, and I hope we keep coming together for good movies. And I know that my vote is only one among many, but Boy Kills World, oh my gosh, it looks so stupid, and I love it. I just love the way it looks. So, anyway, I will be the happiest person alive if we're all watching Boy Kills World together. That will be great.
And hello to Faye. There must be one stuff pod in every chat. That must be a rule.
Well, to quote Cthulhu in his presidential campaign bid, no lives matter. Sorry.
And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, especially Maura Kitty and Matt Sheetwood joining us from Curtis's simulcast.
He is from Oklahoma as well. He's a friend of mine.
Nice.
Through really rough times.
I'd like to thank everybody here in the chat with us. Lady V Elements, Connie Cleary, Troy and Netter, Bill, Fade. Let me scroll up. Of course, Shashi, Darth Plato. Scroll up and make sure I didn't miss anyone. Basco Scenario. All right.
Everyone is wunderbar.
Yes. Thank everybody on who is following along on Twitter. I can't see you, but I know that you're there. Join me here next week for another episode of The Other Side of Midnight. every late Sunday, early Monday morning at 12:05 a.m. Eastern, 11:05 Central. Once again, Curtis, thank you for joining me for the show.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Yes. The Tired Midnight Blogger. If you're not yet subscribed to Curtis's channel, now is the perfect time. From HQ, in all points, north, south, east, west, and beyond. Good night, take care, stay strong, because this is how we win.